transfer that plant. Well, let's see.
What?
Hold on.
Somebody messed up if they didn't think about the tides. I mean, that's major.
We can't even.
That's
imagine.
crazy. They didn't think about the tides. Oh my goodness.
Well, it was a timing thing. It was either you do it now or the Germans were going to advance. What is that?
What's that?
That's his trench.
Shuttle. Wow.
If that could talk.
If that
That's
could talk,
that's his from World War II.
Exactly.
to dig trenches.
How'd you get that?
He left it to me.
And look how heavy that thing is.
And well made.
And he had to carry that.
Well, that's just part of it.
Oh
See,
wow.
the digs, you unscrew this and it's a shovel.
Amazing. That is.
Let me see
that's
that.
Let me tell you something. That
That
thing
is-
a dig, just the weight of it.
Huh.
That is truly.
Wow, it's
You
heavy.
gotta leave that
Sure
to
it's heavy.
somebody.
But it's well made.
It is
You
well
can- You can blow it up.
It's lasted all these years, almost 100.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Can you change the angle of that thing?
Yeah.
That is truly amazing.
You can
thing.
make whatever angle you want, can't you?
That is amazing.
That other's for digging your trench. When you get.
How did he get that back? I didn't. How did he get that back in the States? Because I thought guys had to leave that, couldn't bring stuff with them,
He probably just he smuggled it.
like the Luger.
Yeah, he gave me that Luger.
Yeah. Who ended up with that Luger? Not me.
I thought
Linda. Jack. Yeah. Linda and them won it in your the straws. We drew straws,
You ought to put a claim
and
in
Linda
that.
won, and he got it.
Good show.
That almost belongs in a museum.
Huh.
And even so, he broke the end.
Well, digging in rock and under the cliff. God knows you're not going to say, I better not dig here. I see a rock.
Yeah. Well,
Boom, boom, bam. You just dug, man.
well,
I said, how long did it take you to dig a
Uncle Billy, he was in the Battle of the Bulge, wasn't he? Under
Some,
Patton.
But he didn't see the action clean to Berlin.
What was Kenneth's branch? Was he in the army?
Of course.
So
Okay.
he saw some things we can't even imagine.
Well, he'd get about drunk and he'd talk a little bit about it.
Was it only the army that hit the beaches? Was that the only branch? I mean, did
Infantry, yeah.
the Navy, the
Infantry,
Marines,
Navy was there.
everybody was there?
Of course they were. Now, he I said, how long would it take you to dig a trench for cover? He said, well, maybe 10 seconds unless I was in a hurry.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Not if he was.
And he goes, he may just get his head in it, but
Yeah.
he'd be,
Can you imagine digging like up there where the cabin is in Maynardville, where it's rocky,
and they're
and
shooting
they're shooting at you, and you're trying to dig? It's
artillery's shooting at you
right.
too.
I mean, it's like
Soldiers shooting at you.
you're in the middle. It's like you're in the middle of
You
a.
hear somebody,
And somebody right next
guy
to
right
you
next to you go,
dies.
you look over there, he didn't have a head.
And he's gone. Yeah.
He's gone.
Did you ever see the Saving Private Ryan? That movie that's supposed to be really accurate. The opening scene is where.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the opening scene is what it was like. The bullets going through the water, you know, and hitting these guys while they're 6 feet down.
Right.
I mean, they're dodging bullets in the ocean.
Well, how can
My great uncle was in it, and he fought in Italy. But the guy in front of him had his head blown off right in front of him.
Oh, yeah.
And he lost his eye.
Oh, that's terrible. But today's
But
soldier,
he
pieces
He
of
wouldn't
people
talk
hit
about
you,
it
you know.
either.
Bowels would
Just-
wrap around you.
just horrible.
But that's
Like a
they
slaughter.
They don't talk about it.
And now,
Unless they get drunk or something.
well, they used to suppress that stuff.
And chips. Again, for lunch we will be having sloppy joes and chips.
today's Army has got gays in it, and they got a bunch of fat people in it, and they got a bunch of women in it, and they don't have the
Nobody
grit.
signs up.
Well, that's what's so good about the draft. It makes you patriotic because everybody
Because they're
served.
worried about white privilege and letting queers into the.
And that's part of the plan to tear
Yeah.
us apart.
It's like, how can
Today's
we let more
today's Army,
queers or these transsexuals, these people that want to change themselves.
today's Army, they couldn't. I don't think they could do it. I don't think they could do it.
My uncle about he about the size of Evan.
He's a big. I
6'4".
remember him. He was a big guy.
Yeah, big.
We went fishing with him and Granddaddy one time
Almost right.
down at the bottom.
I
Yeah.
remember that.
And they drafted him, lined up with the sergeant, said, "Are you son of a bitches, get in line?" That was the opening remark from the sergeant.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and my uncle said to him, "I resent that. Why you resent, you bastard?" He said, "I have more respect than that for my mother." You know what happened then? Sergeant decked him.
Oh, oh, really?
Right.
Now get off your feet, you son of a bitch, and get in that line.
Oh, I get it. You called my mother a bitch. Yeah.
Son of a
So he
bitch.
slugged
Yeah,
him.
but the sergeant didn't care.
He didn't explain.
That
what
was-
it is.
Tough him up.
He explained it to him.
He said, "Get in line." He
Yeah.
got us. Did you give me more trouble? She said,
No.
Not a word.
Not a word.
Now,
He made an example of the rest of them.
right now, you'd file a lawsuit against the sergeant
Of
for
course.
for offending you and for bodily harm and for
Now,
mental anguish
He
and
finished master sergeant.
They can't get guys to volunteer anymore
Well,
because
no.
they made them do all the COVID when they didn't want to, and they
Made 'em get
care
vaccinated.
more about the queers.
yeah.
Well, we've had our day in the sun.
That's right. That's the thing. Every democracy.
250 years is the longest democracy that has ever existed, including the Greeks.
Including the Greeks.
We're about 5 years
I
out.
thought the Romans lasted quite a while. Didn't
Well,
they?
they're another one. Yeah.
But they lasted.
What
about-
was the longest
Romans
democracy?
lasted-
250.
But who was it?
I don't know who it was. Either the Romans or the Greeks, one of the two.
But guess
We're
what?
right on track.
What ruined the Romans was they let too many people in, foreigners,
Exactly.
and it's the same thing that's happening
Exactly.
to us.
Exactly.
That's
and
right.
it brought their society down,
And their
down,
and
down.
pride, their patriotic, this
Went away.
grafting et tu, Brute.
Yeah. When you draft everybody develops a sense of pride because everybody serves.
Right.
I mean, whether you're
I think they should bring that back.
oh, can you
But they
imagine?
drafted me.
Yeah, and Kathy's dad.
My dad.
Everybody
My
served.
dad was in ROTC at
They
school.
drafted me after I became.
ROTC.
They drafted me after I became a doctor.
Yeah, Dad.
After you became a
After,
doctor.
yeah. I
Dad
in
was out of
practice.
college.
What if you'd have
He
said, "I
served.
don't want to be drafted. I'm a
They send
doctor."
you to Penn.
You had no choice. You couldn't say, "I defer. I practice
Well,
in medicine."
You could say, "Now, General, I prefer not to go to the front line. I understand in Korea they can get shot. Well, if you feel that way about it, doctor, that'd be fine. You just stay
Yeah, just stay home. That's right.
Stay home.
No, I'm thinking since you were a
What do
doctor.
you think they do to you?
Well, I thought since you were a doctor, you might get a little bit more
I did.
credit,
They
slack.
They didn't send me to the front. Why not?
Because they
'Cause
didn't
you-
want to lose.
they didn't wanna
that
lose the brains.
expertise,
I
Yeah.
couldn't be replaced that easy.
However, how about medics on the battlefield? They needed good doctors on the battlefield, didn't
The
they?
doctor does not go on the front line. It's the corpsman.
Okay. So they
Corpsman.
teach them how
They're
to do
expendable.
triage and get them to the main.
They,
Yeah.
First aid is what they do.
Right.
Get them back to base.
Huh.
No, they couldn't replace the brain.
Right. Yeah.
The body is not important.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
anyway, those days are over,
They
and now
fought
we're
with
going to be
this.
fighting.
Somebody knocked chunk out of there, and it was my uncle
Yeah.
digging trenches.
Yeah,
That's
to
amazing.
save his life.
Foxhole.
Yeah, if that thing could talk right there.
There's no atheist in foxholes, you know.
Here, take a picture of that, Gary.
I have.
Of this?
Yeah.
Huh.
They say there's no atheist in a foxhole.
Dr. Galbraith, he was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was in infantry, and he wasn't a doctor. He was drafted. He said there's snow and all that stuff, and those Tiger tanks, they hear him coming. That was the best tank ever built. Tiger tank. Or two. Oh,
Our tanks were sorry, weren't they?
sorry as hell. Now there's something else. They put the big gun on the side. It could only swivel 180 degrees.
Huh. Who
Why
does
didn't they put it in the middle where it rotates
Yeah,
like the Germans?
Like the Panzers. Weren't those the best tanks?
Best tank made was the Tiger tank, which is a Panzer.
Panzer.
Make your film too long, you won't ever go back to it. The longer you make them.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, thanks for saying
anyway,
that. That's on tape.
Hitler, last gasp, he had, get that hat, pressure off that hat.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't know it was there. Yeah.
So he was trying to break through to the ocean and split the Allies and then negotiate for peace. That was
Who?
what Hitler.
Yeah, okay.
So he took his last best reserves, the Panther divisions with the Tiger tanks. Those Tiger tanks, 60 tons. Woo. They said, well, you can't get through that far. But they did. And they heard him coming. Hit our GIs with thin as paper anyway to begin with, as far as men. We had tried. And Bruce was one of them.
Dr. Galbraith?
Yeah.
Well, boy, he's awfully
He
The
mild-mannered.
Germans were rough. They were almost
They were great
tougher
soldiers.
than we were.
Oh, sure.
If Germany
Oh, they were
had
tougher.
the resources that we have,
We
they'd
had
have won the
they'd
damn
have
war.
won the war.
They were great soldiers. I mean, they were.
Oh, sure.
They
They're Germans. I
followed
mean,
orders to
The Italians, they just wanted to sing and romance. They weren't worth the crap. Well, anyway,
so they
Anyway.
hung,
yeah, they say the shortest book in history is Italian war heroes.
you're right.
well, they hung Mussolini. I mean, until then, they just
But the Germans were
Oh, they
were they more fit than our troops?
Um,
I mean, more conditioned, fit, physically
probably
fit.
The same, but the point is, the German, it's in his psychic to do a job right, and it's in that we're going to take so and so and so.
so they're gonna do it. Yeah,
Now
yeah, they were
they
scary.
had one
opponent.
fault. They had one major fault, and we were strong. Just like me building that little gizmo behind that.
Yeah, yeah.
We innovate. Our society, that's our culture. It's not the Germans' culture. Germans' culture is follow whatever did ahead of me and do it perfect. Now, that's fine as long as you do get, as long as it's a situation that they know about. Now, here's an example. Desert war. Helicopters. The blades on a helicopter in that desert sand, blowing it up.
That's what messed up Carter,
Just eat.
trying to rescue those guys.
Just eat up the blades of that helicopter, nothing flat. New blade costs $100,000, one blade. And they couldn't make them fasten it. The sergeant solved the problem.
Yeah,
Guess what?
I don't know.
He got a roll of duct tape.
They had duct tape back then.
Of course. And on the edge of that blade that goes round, 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 the cutting edge, front edge, he just put a strip clear out to the end, cut it off. That blade, it still lived just about 100% because
Yeah.
it's thin. And when it got thin,
Put another layer.
rip it
What are
off.
we gonna do for lunch? He needs to eat. He'll need to eat.
I'm still listening to this story. So second. Anyway, so that's pretty smart,
Now,
and
Pretty
the
smart.
sand
Now,
wouldn't penetrate it.
It'd cut the duct tape until it wore through, And when they could see the metal,
Put
they
more duct
another-
tape.
Rip that off and put another strip on.
Yeah. But if the Germans had no innovation, how they have the best helmets, the best tanks, the best weapons, the best
I'm
rifles.
talking about something that takes place immediately.
They had the best tanks.
Yeah, but I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you said their mentality is I'm just
They
going to
had
They
follow.
had the best stuff.
Innovation means something happens. You walk out that door.
Oh, I got you. You're talking about improvising, like
That's what the word innovation means.
to come up with a
Immediate solution.
immediate solution.
They
Yeah,
didn't have that.
Improvise.
I see.
And every time they charge or
means
something, something go wrong that nobody had thought about.
Right.
Things just don't work out like the book said.
So they didn't have the quick thinking ability to
That's right.
adjust.
They were so ingrained in them to obey orders that to do anything except what the book said would be in violation, and it's in their psychic from little kids.
Yeah,
That's why they followed.
that's why they became Nazis, wasn't it? I mean, that's why they followed
that's why
Hitler,
they
wasn't it?
Followed orders to kill all these innocent people. Just line them up.
Do things that you would never ever
I mean,
imagine doing.
Piles and piles
But you know
of
what?
bodies and.
The Air Force, they weren't that way.
Well, they were flyboys.
Their Air Force-
You know,
Their Air Force.
Honored
our Air Force was better than their Air Force.
Yes,
That's where we got them, in our Air Force.
right.
Because
And the
we
Jeep.
could.
And the Jeep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what was their
we
What was
could
their
come-
plane?
we
What
could fly
plane?
over.
They were good planes, but they only had a limit. We came up with, we would dare more than they. We
And the
tried
British
more
had a
than
good
they.
air. British had a
Beautiful
good Air
airplane.
Force. Yeah.
What about the Zero?
Well,
It's good for what it could do.
for
Yeah.
kamikazes, yeah, the Zero
could-
was good.
They could outmaneuver our planes from the beginning. We'd
Well,
have
and
to
how
hit
can
and
you
run.
combat?
Who had the longest range plane? Would that be us or?
I guess we did.
I think we did.
The 19.
But how
B-29.
can you
B-29?
Yeah, the big.
see?
4-inch.
We couldn't beat those Zeros because the pilots were willing to die. They were part of the bombing. I mean, they
Right.
would just go down with the plane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
Well, that's what they did.
And they
B-29 was
just-
that-
That was ceremony, drank some sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
and
knew
Get
they
back
were
to the
gonna
parents,
die.
shake the parents, and go out.
B-29 was before the B-52, or what was the one you used to get in the nose of?
Well, they bombed with
The one with the glass
B-29.
front.
B-29.
Yeah,
And
Bomber.
to the Japs.
right. Was that the one you crawled up in? Remember when you talking about the glass
Oh.
nose and
B-25 is what I was.
And the Japanese,
Big-
if
big
you
mission.
came back
B-20.
from that mission,
Tokyo.
if you came,
that's what bombed Tokyo? B-25?
if you came back from your mission, you failed because you were supposed to die.
Yeah, yeah. It's a kamikaze.
You lost,
That's right.
you lost
yeah.
face.
Lost face.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's like the Hamas guys who think they're gonna get to all the virgins and all this stuff if they, slaughter and kill.
The Japanese weren't going to give up. They just kept on and on and on until we
It would have
dropped the
cost
bomb.
us 1 million casualty.
Had we not dropped the bomb,
That's right.
what did it end up
Truman
costing?
made a right decision, but it's a tough one.
Yeah.
140,000 people
Now, the
killed.
Japanese nation, Japanese skin is pigment. They're dark. They call them yellow, but they have more pigment.
Yeah.
And that tends to keloid. So when that bomb the ones that didn't kill but just burned, most of them healed great big things,
The hard. Yeah.
You've seen
Oh.
pictures of the
Really?
faces.
Yeah.
That's because of their nationality. Negroes do the same thing.
Yeah.
Caucasians, well, look at me. I've been operating. You have to look real close to even see a scar on me. I don't scar.
Huh.
Fair skin, I guess.
That's just
That's
genetic. Yeah.
correct. But for propaganda, man, they wrote it about the Japanese. Look at that, how cruel we were. Look at how.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But it had nothing to do
Because it looks
with
so
that.
bad.
Well,
yeah.
now
That
a
we've-
lot
It is
of-
bad.
A lot of them died of radiation poisoning, and the bomb just
I'm
vaporized.
talking about the one that didn't kill, but just
Just man.
thousands of them.
Yeah. Hey, we just read.
Getting back to my story of Dr.
Oh yeah, okay.
And they had one guy in their company that didn't believe in God. Hell, that's a bunch of stuff. Hell. Anyway, in comes these panzers. Boom, boom, all hell breaks loose. It's boom
All of a
pow.
sudden
You
it's-
cannot imagine how it was unless you were there. And men were crying. They were just 18 years
Yeah,
old.
bad boys. Yeah.
They'd be saying, Mama, Mama. Everyone,
Yeah,
Mama.
Yeah,
That's the only person they called on. Mama.
I know.
They reverted back to little boys.
Isn't that something?
How do you know that?
Dr. Brick,
I mean, he told you.
told me.
Oh, okay.
It
I
came
didn't-
straight.
Okay.
That when they were dying, that's what they called for their
Mama.
mothers. Yeah.
Well, they were calling for Mama and foxholes because they're just digging them out. And he said, and I said, yeah, you bastard, he's the next foxhole. I hear you praying now. You didn't whine the hell didn't he pray, but he did some good.
Right.
Oh yeah.
He didn't lose his sense of humor.
Wow. And then
You,
so the guy
I don't know.
came around, I guess.
Gary, I don't know. He may have got blown to smithereens. But I'm just telling you what they heard.
Well, that's sad. I don't think we'll ever have a war like that again.
I
Our
just-
technology.
I disagree.
What I'm worried about.
I think there's a chance we will have. a
No,
war
no,
like
they'll
that
send
again.
10,000 drones carrying bombs over.
And I think.
and
we
they'll
could
be
lose-
dropping them
I
from
think
other
we could lose the
locations.
next
Somewhere
war.
along the way, they've got to do one thing. Send some boots in. A human being has to take over. All the
Like Israel
technology and you
has,
want,
yeah.
but you cannot control the land unless there's a human being there.
Well, you say, but I mean, with today's technology, I mean,
With-
you could have an army of drones with lasers and bombs,
Who's gonna?
and you're controlling it
who's
from
gonna-
1,000.
Who's gonna move the grass and control the votes and things like that?
Well,
Uh-huh.
you don't have to worry about. I mean,
Yes, you do. You take over a
Eventually,
community.
you need
You
boots
gotta
on
do
the
ev-
ground.
something.
eventually, but if you're trying to
That's what
hold,
I'm
if you're
talking
trying to hold the line
That's what I'm
between
talking
Russia and
about.
Ukraine,
No, that's the battle. I'm not talking about that.
oh, eventually, yeah.
Eventually, you got to send human beings in.
Okay, so does that mean we'll have a war like that again someday with people?
No,
Possibly.
be a lot more technology than now. But still, at the final
Well,
thing,
eventually you still
Now-
have to send boots on the ground. Israel
That's right.
has to send their guys into
That's
Gaza.
right.
They're not just doing it all via drone. They're having to go
Oh,
in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Into the
All
tunnels.
right, now here's another.
And they're getting some casualties too. We don't hear about.
Well, of course. they
I mean, you can't not. They're flooding the tunnels and
Now, the Germans in France, he was in this. He did tell me this. And later on, it came out on television. When they got just getting ready to enter from France into Germany, they had these hedgerows. You've never been to France or well, a little
yeah.
bitty single track road and a big old bank on each side. How's that?
of hedges, like a.
Well, dirt and vines and weeds and
Shrubs.
little trees and
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
A hedge.
Okay, yeah.
And what would happen is we would come along with a tank to get to the road, to get the Germans, the machine guns and whatnot. The tank would have to go up and over the hedge. And before it tipped it down, the bottom would be exposed.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the weakest
Like a
part.
turtle. Yeah.
And the Germans were homed in on that. And it's boom, goodbye.
And knock our tanks out. It's the only
Put a
way
hole.
they could do it. Yeah. Wow.
So what was the solution?
Sergeant, I'm talking about innovation.
Yeah.
What he did, he got some of these anti-tank, like railroad rails, you know. You see them sticking up.
The crisscross things?
They stick up like my fingers,
Yeah.
and tank hits and
Right, yeah, uh-huh.
tread comes off. Anyway, took a bunch of them, about 6 or 8 foot long, and they welded it underneath that tank where they stick out there, and they cut off the end, made it sharp like a V, like that. So here comes the tank. It's out there 6 foot. That rock.
Right.
It hits that bank,
Yeah.
digs in.
Oh, I got you.
Goes through the hedge.
Yeah, like a caterpillar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what is a tank?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Caterpillar,
Right.
treads and everything.
Yeah.
And
That's smart.
Innovation.
Yeah.
They
So instead of doing this, they just kind of powered through the hedge.
That front gun, that big gun,
It's ready.
looking at the German machine gun nest. One shot, boom! Woo. Been knocking out tanks going and coming.
How long did, I wonder, before we figured that out? How many tanks did we
Soon enough,
lose?
Then in come the infantry behind you, the trucks and jeeps and machine guns and all that. See, the tanks were breaking through those hedges.
They were the front line, yeah. Wow.
Correct.
But then which tank was the one that if you shot it in the back,
That's a
it
Panzer.
blew up? That was the weakest link of how to
That's
get
a
that
German
tank. That was their weakest link.
But they didn't plan on turning around and running off.
But if you were behind them,
If you could get behind them.
did they innovate and come up with a way to protect that vulnerable back?
To my knowledge, they just didn't make it a point to turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just didn't show
That's
you.
great if you have nothing but offense, but it's like if you ever get behind them,
Well, that's a German.
just moving ahead.
In the Pacific, we attacked some of those Japanese dug in on those islands.
You know anything crazy
12
though that the Russians were on our side? That
Well,
Russians
eventually.
Russians were part of the Allied force. We didn't. They were.
Eventually, they were really on
We
his
joined
side, weren't they?
them.
Right? And
No, the
They
Russians.
welcomed the Germans. The Russian people did. Peasants.
Well, yeah, because they
They
were
abused
starving.
them.
They were starving.
The Germans abused the Russians and they turned on them. At the initial, that's why Hitler went through mile after mile after mile after mile of no resistance. The peasants were joining them.
how did they abuse them? What do you mean? You mean like?
Anyway,
But they didn't rape them and stuff like that, did they? I mean, they weren't that
Gary.
kind.
They were
food,
starving.
clothes,
They were
whatever. Don't
starving.
have nothing. Treat them like dogs.
They were
Right, I got
starving.
you.
No
Yeah.
respect. They wouldn't
Of course, the
sacrificed and everything.
Right.
They were the lower class.
So they turned on them.
Well, sure,
Sure.
the Germans were killing them.
How long? I wonder how long into it that was before they did that.
Well, when the offensive started choking down, slowing up, that's when they were turning on them. See, that's a major.
That was a big mistake.
The difference in winning, and the weather was the number 2.
Yeah.
Well, the
That-
Italians were against us at first, and then they turned on our side.
You could see the golden domes of Moscow before they stopped the Germans.
Yeah,
Another mile, 2 miles.
that close.
That
Wow.
close.
Really?
When they run out of
And
gas.
so wasn't Hitler's big mistake? He was paranoid and he thought that.
His mistake was starting the offense too late in the season.
It was
didn't-
cold,
He did. Right.
bitter cold,
You could drive across.
and they didn't even have proper boots, and they just a lot
He
of them
started
died
it
from the
too
weather.
late. It gets so cold in Russia, you can drive your trucks and everything across the lakes. Didn't
Well,
need a
that
road.
was his most fatal mistake. Was that his last mistake?
I would say his mistake was going to war with them to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then,
But
Bit off more than he could chew.
then he killed himself.
No, I thought there was some point, and I'll have to watch a documentary because I'm not that
You
good.
really
But
must.
I thought there was some point where he got real paranoid and started to think,
Well, he was.
I need to second guess myself, and he changed his mind on.
He became sick mentally. He broke under the pressure and was taking shots for pain and everything.
When did you find out though about the extermination of the Jews? That was kind of a big secret up until the very end. Wasn't
Well,
it? When did Americans find out what was going on over there
I don't recall.
with all the concentration camps? Because
Oh, they knew what concentration camp.
but I mean,
We had-
where
we
did you
had
find
some
out about the
spies.
gas chambers and all that? That was late in the war that the
Well, we had
Americans found out.
spies late in the war. Could get in there and make it.
So they suppressed all that stuff about the genocide and everything,
See, back
and
then
we
the
didn't
media-
know.
The media wasn't pervasive, that nobody knew in America what was going on. And they didn't even really know in Germany what was going on.
Yeah, I was
until
going to ask,
about
did the
year-
German people
about
know
3
what they
years
were
into
doing?
it. No.
Eisenhower, when he took over this prison camp, the village in charge of there, he had every citizen in that village to come out, and he took them on a tour through the where
Oh.
they exterminated
Seeing's believing, yeah.
ashes and bones and everything. Said that the people were crying like babies. The Germans were crying
Right,
like
because
babies.
they didn't know that
They
what their
didn't
people
know.
were doing.
I tell you what got me. We saw the gas chamber. The thing looked like shower heads in the ceiling. They thought they'd go in there and take a bath.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I saw the open the door, and there's pieces of bone laying there and ashes and whatnot. I handled that pretty good because I've seen so much of that stuff being a doctor. Anyway, the one thing that really got me, and tears came to my eye, I couldn't help it, came to this closet.
With the shoes. The baby shoes. What?
Pacifiers.
Yeah.
There's a pile of pacifiers laying there in that little closet, several hundred piles of little pacifiers.
Killed all those babies. Yeah, they didn't care.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
even now, that's been 40 years ago.
Yeah. No, I remember that was
I
moving.
tears, and I looked around. There when everybody was crying in our bunch.
What'd Mama do?
Cried. You couldn't help it to think of little baby innocent.
Yeah. Well, we saw some of that in the Holocaust Museum where they would
Yeah.
take your hair and your teeth and
They made
fillings
cloth,
and
made cloth.
just
out.
like you were a utility,
They
like you
looked
were a
at
tree.
them like animals.
Yeah.
We saw bales of human hair. It looked like, what looked like that rug.
They were just jealous of them.
Wow. So
'Cause
I'm
they
surprised,
control-
Doctor.
they
I'm
control
surprised.
the money of
They
the country.
used those things.
I'm surprised Dr. Galbraith talked about it
Well,
because most of them don't. And I always thought he was a passive guy, wasn't he?
Does he not need lunch?
Yeah, we're gonna get lunch. He was real passive, wasn't he, Dr.
Well, how
Galbraith?
late do they serve lunch?
I better get myself down there if I'm.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
I'm not hungry.
wasn't Dr. Galbraith the guy who'd buy a new car and then wouldn't change the oil and then he'd burn it up and then he'd get another new car?
Not a new car. Never did buy a new.
But he wouldn't change oil and do
you
things
didn't
that.
know you're supposed to.
Yeah, but he served in the in World War II and didn't realize. I mean,
That's why I'm talking about these guys that are smart and everything, but they can't put it together.
all right.
They
Anyway,
forgot about the tide.
yeah, that was.
Real intelligent.
Gosh.
That came through.
Well, we still have that now, I guess. To a
Of
degree.
course
I mean,
you
just
do. You see it all around. You.
intellectual idiots. I mean, not the common
We call
sense.
them educated fools.
Yeah, that's right. Same
There's
thing.
more to knowing the fact. It's being able to take that fact and use it,
Yeah.
make it do something.
Right. Otherwise,
Now,
you're not really
my
thinking. You're not really
IQ
thinking.
My IQ is very good, but I can reason. A little gimmick on the back of my push around.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be a
Why didn't
if
somebody
you worked
else-
for that chairs, you'd think up that stuff and
Right.
they'd put it on all of them.
That's putting it in.
And why didn't they in the first place?
They haven't thought about it.
But they ought to interview people who have them and say, you know what I need? I need, a tray on the back of
Sooner
my.
or later, they'll come out with a model that'll have that on it.
Well, some of them do, don't they?
No,
None of them do?
no, not yet.
Huh.
The push around has a thing you can put stuff in. You know the one, here it is.
The hover round. Yeah, right.
See here? This raises up, the seat raises up. But those do not have seats that raise up.
So, yeah, that guy that you talking about, he said, yeah, it's really flimsy. You can tell it's going to fall. In other words, he knew it was really sturdy, that thing you built. Well, that's nice.
He's one of the engineers.
No, the one who was more the communications guy.
Yeah.
He's the one who was kidding about it.
He's just working.
Well, that's a permanent installation, it looks like.
That'll hold 50 pounds. And you
Did you glue it? Or
glued and
what's the liner?
got screws on.
What's the liner in the bottom?
That's place mass.
All
Costs
right.
$1.25.
You ready to get lunch?
Yeah,
did-
you ready to cut that off?
Yeah.